To Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet today. Welcome to members and officers joining us in the room, and also to members of the public that may be viewing online. If you'd like to see the agenda, it's in the linked underneath the video box there on YouTube. I'm joined today by Councillor Trevor Johnson, who's portfolio holder for Environment and Recycling, Councillor Jill Heatham, who's portfolio holder for Community Safety and Wellbeing, and Councillor Andy Fear, portfolio holder for Strategic Planning. Sitting next to me is Deputy Leader Stephen Sweeney, who's got a portfolio for Town Centres and Growth, and I'm Council Leader Simon Tagg, also portfolio holder for One Council, People and Partnerships. Apologies today, we have apologies from Jill Waring, so we'll note those apologies. Item number 2 is declarations of interest for items on the agenda. Do we have any for any of the items from members? Not seeing any. And item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting, which took place on the 14th of March, are attached on page 5 to 10. Can we agree those as a correct record? Thank you. First item of business is the Walleys Quarry update. As I always say at this point, we've had these reports now for getting on for a couple of years now, since the Walleys Quarry incident started, and we've had regular updates since then, through to this cabinet, through to council, and also through to our scrutiny committees. And the report follows the same format as it usually does, and is open for debate here at this meeting. One of the main things is complaints remain well down on historical levels, although we do see occasional days when complaints spike, particularly Monday the 27th of March, when the council received 31 complaints and 23 complaints on the 7th and 8th of April. And these coincided with cold, still weather, which has long been associated with odour problems. But those figures of complaints are massively lower than what we were receiving just a couple of years ago at the height of the stink, as it has been called locally. Over the last 3 months, there's been no H2S concentrations above the World Health Organization health threshold, and levels were above the odour annoyance guideline levels for typically a very low percentage each week. When the daily peak is released, we will see that peaks associated with the spikes, we'll be able to put them against the complaints to see if there is a trend, and we're not seeing any large spikes or any large increases in complaints. Gas collection on the site of the gas concentration remains stable. The council has commissioned an independent evaluation of the data available from October to February to see how the current state of affairs compares with what would be required as defined as a statutory nuisance. And it is, in Ricardo's opinion, who are the person we've employed to do this, and for there to be a statutory nuisance, there will need to be certain factors met, and they are namely called FIDO: frequency, intensity, and duration, would need to be at an increased frequency than they are now, and an increased intensity, and for a longer duration than they are at the present. So we remain very vigilant about this site. Officers are in contact with the operator and with the Environment Agency, and we investigate complaints when there are spikes and explore those with the company, determining potential causes and remedy. So I think I said it at the council meeting we had a couple of weeks ago now. There was a heading in the Sentinel newspaper saying, "We are watching you," associated with the story to do with Walleys Quarry, that we'd reached the period where the abatement notice 5 months had expired, and it was a live abate situation now. I think it did sound a bit creepy, that, but I think it actually sums up what we're actually doing. You know, we are watching, we're ensuring that if there are any complaints that come in or spikes, that they're investigated. And also we keep that data on record, and if necessary, we can move forward with the abatement notice process, as we've made a pledge to do so. And I think, as we heard at council, I think all members are still in favour of that, both political parties. If necessary, we will use the tools we have to bring this to some sort of satisfaction for our residents. I think the last thing I would point, I've seen our local MP has made some statements released against the company relating to that they should, apologise or even consider compensation. I think there are thousands of people, particularly in the Thistlebury ward, in the Nutton ward, the Silverdale ward, and beyond, who've had their lives, turned upside down over the last couple of years. And I think, an apology would go down very well. I think the idea of compensation has been involved with this site before, and it's something which can be explored, I think, through legal actions of individuals, and not really for this council to take forward. But I think the company owners should be on them to actually issue that apology, and things are improving. They have remained improved, and complaints have remained low, and the monitoring equipment is remaining low. Is that we're moving in the right direction. But I think for closure for people, we'll need to see some sort of penance paid by this company. And that's all I was going to say on that matter. But I'll open it up to comments from Cabinet members, Steve and then Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The apology is interesting, because I think for the first couple of years of this, of our administration, actually, I mean, it's gone on for longer than that. One of the stumbling blocks was that they wouldn't admit responsibility for it, would they? It was nothing to do with them. It was this, that, the other. Oh, it come from our place. We had nothing to do with that. Blah, blah, blah. A couple of years down the line, they finally did admit that, yeah, they might have something to do with it, which was a major improvement. But I think the idea of an apology, I think, could go down very well with people. And now they've acknowledged that it is their fault. An apology I wouldn't have thought was such a huge stretch. As to the monitoring, as to these reports, yeah, absolutely, we should keep these going. The problem isn't over. I won't try to use a Chilean expression I used at council because I messed it up. But the war's not won. It's winning, but it's not won yet. We still get the odd whiff, and I think whilst we do get that whiff, I think we should carry on with this. And I think it's two things this council's done really since we came. Well, it's done lots of things, but two things that are similar, which would have been easy for us to sort of turn a blind eye and forgot about. And Walleys Quarry was one of them, and the faults at Jubilee 2 Pool was another one, where it just went on year after year after year, and this council didn't take action. And it's really taken this administration to come in and grab these two things and say, well, let's get this sorted. Let's just not accept that this is right. You shouldn't have to live near a smelly quarry. It just shouldn't happen. And it was, a couple of years ago, it was absolutely hideous and ghastly at all place. And the same with a leaking roof at the swimming pool. It's just what happens. We put a bucket. Well, it shouldn't happen. It should be sorted. And it's taken this administration and a set of officers to grab it by the oars and get it sorted, or get it on the way to being sorted. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thanks very much. It is a shame, isn't it? I mean, all spikes are a spike too far, so to speak. So it's disappointing that that's there. Nonetheless, I think, as you rightly said, Simon, the strategy of watching with a critical eye as to what's going on has been paying dividends. If we look at the data, which is always a very useful thing to do, I think, if we look at the equivalent of March last year for the last data reports we've got, I noticed complaints to ourselves have fallen 5-fold, and complaints to the EA have fallen 10-fold. So that shows, I think, that the direction of travel is the right way round. Again, though, as Steve said, we are on the way to winning this war, but we mustn't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and therefore vigilance is important. And I've every confidence that our officers are on the ball in that regard.
Thank you, Andy. Agree completely. And I think that vigilance comes out of people still reporting it. And I think I would urge people to continue to report any odours wherever they come from. They'll always be, investigated. They'll always be logged. They'll always be part of any evidence going forward if it's traced back to the Walleys Quarry site, of course, because, of course, we do have other establishments either in the borough or on the edge of the borough that may create odours. So we have to particularly investigate them and get them back to source so that we can build that case for the abatement notice if we require to. So the report's before us, that we to note the report, and thank you for officers again, as I think has been said by both Steve and Andy for the work that they've done and continue to do in our environmental health staff, and also right up to the chief executive. And we'll continue to monitor this and continue to have our monthly cabinet reports to keep that eye on this, and also ensure we keep the council aware through the leader's statement on developments as well when we have our next full council. Do we agree with the recommendation? Thank you. Item 5 is the joint housing allocation policy, and Jill's going to introduce this.
Thank you. The current housing allocation policy was developed in conjunction with Aspire Housing and has been in place since 2020. It was agreed that the policy be reviewed after 24 months, and following that review, one of the recommendations of this report is to approve the draft joint housing allocations policy 2023 for an 8-week public consultation. The proposed changes will update the policy in line with Part 6 of the Housing Act 1996, which requires local authorities to have an allocations policy that sets out how social homes will be allocated in the area and to give reasonable preference to certain groups of applicants. Proposed changes include students who currently acquire a local connection by being within the borough for 6 months in the last 12 months, simply by studying at local colleges or universities, will no longer be able to do so. Limiting the number of bids a person can make to 3 at any one time. Add clarification to the medical assessment section to make it clear that the assessment is not based solely on medical conditions, but includes a fuller assessment on whether their health affects their ability to live in their current home and or whether their home is affecting their well-being. I support the recommendations within the report and agree a wider consultation will give residents of the borough an opportunity to be a part of the process and have their say. I ask that Cabinet agree the recommendations.
Thank you, Jill. Just emphasise what you said finally there about the consultation, and important that people take part in that consultation. And the recommendation is that we approve the draft joint housing allocations policy for that 8-week consultation, and that we delegate to yourself with the Service Director for Regulatory Services in consultation with obviously yourself to finalise and the adopted policy and agree any policy changes relating to the choice-based letting system in light of available resources and annual funding allocations. Do you all agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving to our next item, which is the Astley Centre for Circus, and Steve's going to introduce this one.
Thank you. This is the last of the town deal schemes to be put forward to government to be agreed, and is still waiting for it to be agreed. The rest have all been agreed. What it is we've secured funding now to redevelop. It's the old bank on the corner of Fog Street as a home for the Astley project in there. It's an exciting, distinctive development which not only celebrates Philip Astley, the man regarded as the father of modern circus, but there's huge potential for the future. Moving to Merrill Street will get this project up and running, with the added bonus of bringing a town centre building back to life. Newcastle has a unique opportunity to create something extraordinary here, which in the long term could boost our town centre enormously. Now, when these schemes are put forward to government, an officer in this room calls things the TIPEX test, and you could cross out the name of the authority with TIPEX, and they'd all be the same. Obviously, Blackpool will be different because they're talking about lights, or something else might be different, but vast majority virtually the same. This Astley thing stood out from the crowd, and I think it's probably one of the reasons why we had such good funding. It was something different, innovative for the town. Now, this home where it's going on corner of Fog Street isn't permanent because York Place isn't built yet, but when it is, after a couple of years, this will then move into York Place, and I think it's quite a exciting project for the town, really, and it makes this town different from other towns, which I think is always a good thing. So I'm happy to approve this.
Thank you, Steve. Join you in that. I think this is it was one of the highlights of the town deal application. I think it did raise sort of that individuality thing for the bid for the town, and of course we are aware of Astley. We're actually in the Astley room here in the council offices at the moment. And I think that it's been recognised over the past few years or so because of the work of people like Andrew Van Buren and others that have really raised the profile of Philip Astley. And it's something which we can, weave into the heritage of the town. And I think this scheme helps us to do that, I think, as well. I think also it's building that town centre we want, which is, retail is a really important part of our town centre, but we know that sort of retail is under pressure through online and out of town shopping. So to bring other things into the town, which means people can come in and visit, they'll spend time, they'll have a meal, they'll possibly shop, use the historic market, etc. on market days, and hopefully build that footfall up. So this will be another key piece of the jigsaw for that, which I think will, tie in the history of the town, and also ties in with our 850 year as well, because one of the key famous people of Newcastle, which we've got in our sort of arcade, is that the word, of famous people, is Philip Astley is a key one of those for his work that he did on creating the modern circus, along with all the other famous people from Newcastle over the ages. So recommendation before us as we note the progress, and also we authorise the Deputy Chief Executive in consultation with the portfolio holder for finance, growth and town centres to take the necessary steps to make 23 to 25 Merrill Street available to the Fully Astley Project CIC as a heritage centre for a period of up to 3 years at a peppercorn rent, to work up detailed proposals for the occupation of the unit in the redevelopment of York Place beyond that term, to be approved at a future meeting of Cabinet. All agreed? Thank you. Item 8 is the Microsoft license renewal. Will you please... Sorry, missed one out. Sorry, one for you, Steve. Your active lifestyle strategy, over to you.
Thank you for that, Simon. If we got the reasons on the front page, the council adopted sport and active lifestyle strategy 2016 to 26, so that's 10 years. Now, it won't have escaped people's notice that we're not actually in 2026 now, we're in 2023. And the feeling is a 10-year strategy is too long. It really needs to be 5 years, and obviously with COVID, that didn't help things. So this isn't a few minor alterations. This is a new strategy attached to this, completely new strategy. But if I just take this opportunity to point out some of the things that this council's done in the last 6 years. We delivered the refurbishment and reopening of Kidsgrove Sports Centre. The centre has been transferred to local trust and is now once again servicing the community. We delivered a new BMX pump track and new 3G football pitches in Kidsgrove for community use, delivered improvements to Jubilee 2, including the renewal of all gym equipment and addressing legacy issues concerning build quality, ready to support more residents in achieving their fitness goals. Development of wellness hub with assisted exercise machines to support a range of customers with health needs, works in partnership to deliver the Queen's Baton Relay, events as part of the Commonwealth Games celebrations, establish a robust school swimming service after the cancellation of the county service, the first local authority to be water wellbeing accredited, exercise and mindful movement programme accessible to all, set up the COVID pandemic, installation of the pool view drowning detection system, increasing safety and resulting in revenue savings of £60,000 a year, successful pilot of the long COVID programme to deliver health outcomes, GP referral service, referral scheme established for the NHS cardiac team, successful delivery of space, secured funding from the Lawn Tennis Association to enhance tennis facilities at Westlands Tennis Centre and Woolstanton Park. Now, you might have noticed a lot of those things are tying in with the health service. It's an active health wellbeing sort of thing. And so we're tying in to the health service to do these things, working partnership with the health service, really. So it's a good strategy. It's got 3 aims this time, as opposed to 5 before. And if I turn to the appropriate page, I will be able to tell you what they are. If I can find them. Yes, I can. No, I can't. Aim 1, to enable residents to participate in regular activity, including sports centres, informal sports settings and outdoor space. To provide opportunities and targeted support for those with health needs, and to work in partnership to provide a wide range of quality, sustainable leisure and sporting opportunities. Now, people who live in Clayton, apart from having obviously the great pleasure of having me as a councillor, in Clayton, for example, just as one part of the borough, we've got a rugby club, we've got a cricket club, we've got the football club, all within about 200 yards of my house. And this is a sort of aspiration I think we need to look at. So I'm very happy to support this. I'm very happy to pull forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank for your passion in introducing that item. I think you pointed out some really good things you've been doing in the health and leisure and lifestyles area, particularly that pump track in Kidsgrove, bringing a sports centre back into use, and then in my ward the money for the Westlands tennis courts, which I believe is beginning to come to fruition now, and also the one in Woolstanton Park on the edge of the marsh. I think you're quite right. Our strategy needs to reflect the outcomes of COVID and the way people's lifestyles have changed. A lot of people now are using green spaces more, for example, or using our parks more, and we've got to consider that in the way we fund their improvements to them, whether it's health and fitness facilities in those parks, etc. And also it is having the excellent sports facilities in the borough, which the public can sign up to and become members to, such as J2, which you talked about earlier, Steve. This administration spent a lot of time in its early years getting that into a situation where it can be a jewel in the crown, as it should have been for the borough. And of course, the jewel in the crown in sports facilities in Kidsgrove, the sports centre, we certainly made sure we brought that into use, and it's been run by the excellent community group. So I completely agree with the recommendations in this report, and I think it's one of the things which we have to really focus on in the next few years, because I think obesity and health issues and the results of changes in the way people live their lives following the lockdowns really has affected people, particularly of getting on in years, and we need to coax them back into healthier lifestyles and also using sports facilities and using their local parks to the best of their use that they can. So recommendation before us there. Anybody else want to make any comments before I move to the recommendation? Is that the Cabinet approves the Active Lifestyle Strategy 23 to 28 for consultation and authorises the Deputy Chief Exec in consultation with the portfolio holder to finalise and adopt the strategy following the consultation process. All agreed? I will then move to the item I was just about to come to, which is the Microsoft licensing renewals. And now I've lost my page, just like you did, Steve, because I've gone back one. There we go. Yeah, really pleased to bring this. I mean, it's a dry item about Microsoft licenses and subscriptions. We know that if we're signing up to to use the IT software, there are licenses attached to it. And of course, the old argument that we should do away with those and use open source software. Unfortunately, we won't be able to access many of the government systems then because of the security that's involved. So we have to have, and unfortunately, it's a megalith of a company called Microsoft that dominates this. So that means we have to go to them for the licenses. But the real good news is note the savings of £200,000, which is really key, I think, as we move forward. To ensure that we've got the right licenses for the equipment and the jobs that our staff have to do. I think that's a testament to our staff and also to our new head of digital and IT, who's not been long in the job, but has done a good job on reviewing this and getting these proposals to us for this Cabinet, which I read the recommendation. We agree the renewal of the Microsoft Enterprise subscription agreement for the further period of 3 years following the completion of due diligence and procurement exercises, delegated authority to enter into the contract to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader of the Council. And then we note the savings of £200,000, which will go some way to put more sort of savings into our One Council initiative and our programme for transformation in the council. So I'll open it up to any comments, Steve.
No, it's an excellent saving. I think it's the new IT guy, Sam, has done a cracking job on that. So no, I'm just endorsing completely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So read the recommendations, all agreed? Thank you. Next item 9, is spot market fuel purchasing, and Trevor's going to introduce this one.
Thank you, Leader. The council purchases around 400,000 litres of fuel each year. Traditionally, it's white diesel, and the diesel is procured from existing agreed procurement frameworks such as Circus and ESPO. And the council is now using hydro-treated vegetable oil in a large part of its fleet, following approval for its use by Cabinet in September 2022. Supply of HVO is not as widely available as traditional white diesel and is not currently available on any procurement frameworks. The market for fuel can be volatile and has been especially so over the last 12 months, with the war in Ukraine and other factors affecting global supplies. Wholesale prices can and do fluctuate on a daily basis. Therefore, the ability to purchase fuel on the spot market can be advantageous from a financial perspective. Therefore, this report recommends that the Cabinet approves the procurement process, including spot market purchasing for white diesel and hydro-treated oil, HVO, for use in the council's vehicles and plant fleet. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Trevor. Welcome this. I think we know from when we took through the report about moving to HVO and going off white diesel, the percentage of carbon emissions that would save possibly when it's up and running in one go of possibly 33%, which gets us towards our target we want for our carbon net zero. I think one thing that's disappointing is the fact that there is no sort of joint procurement that we can do with other districts or the county or other councils around us or even further afield, because we know that a lot of local authorities are moving down the route of moving to HVO. So, the county council are, that other districts are. So I think it's something we should really take forward through the sustainability board, and perhaps Newcastle can be the one that can take that forward to say, can we have some sort of joint procurement on this, because it would make sense and would obviously, if we go as a whole, we may make savings as we would if we more than we would if we did it individually. I think that's something I would like to add as a recommendation, if I could, is that we do take something we ask officers to provide a paper that we could take to the sustainability board on Trevor's behalf to a future meeting. So if we could add that as a second recommendation. Open to any comments on this item?
As a red part, I think it's next idea that the more people on it, the more savings we'll have. So I think it's an excellent idea. See what responses. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor.
Thanks. It just seems that Newcastle leads and all the others follow. That's what I'm just noticing what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. And that just shows what an excellent portfolio you have been over the last 5 years, Trevor, to get us in that position and to move us to the front on this and on the recycling agenda, because I can tell you on recycling and waste management, that collection of waste we're seen as one of the leaders. And of course, we have been collecting food waste since 2009, which a lot of councils are going to have to jump on board with that. We've led the way on that for many years, and I think got a lot to be proud of in the area of environment and recycling under your leadership, particularly, Trevor. Thank you for that. Then we've got the recommendation before us that we Cabinet approve the procurement process, including spot market purchasing of white diesel and hydrogenated vegetable oil HVO for use in council vehicles and plant fleet. All agreed. Next, item 10, units 1 to 18 Brampton Sidings roofings work. Steve.
Yeah, these are units we have, obviously, and it's sort of fairly obvious what it is. There's new roofs going on. They're not going to put new roof on. They're going to cover the old roof. It's in the capital programme, but it's part of our sort of sustainable strategy to keep the council sustainable going forward, having these commercial units that we can get money from. And obviously, if the roof's leaking, you can't rent the people out, so you've got to spend the money to get the money in. Speculate to accumulate or whatever it is. And this is this. It's in the capital programme. It's all planned, and because it's over a certain amount, it's got to come to cabinet. But if we don't do it, we can't rent the places out. So we've got to do it, and we should do it anyway, because we want a commercial strategy that works. This is the sort of thing we've got to look at. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think you're quite right. These units, as we do have units across the board, but these particularly in Brampton Sidings are really useful for smaller businesses and startups and businesses to get a foothold before they move to bigger premises. And also, I think there are many businesses have been there for many years as well here. So these are much sought after units, and I think this money is well spent on keeping them in good condition, so we can continue to get that rent, but also continue to offer those units for business opportunities and for employment within the borough as well. So I completely agree with this, that Cabinet authorises the award of the contract for the roofing work at Brampton Sidings to Total Roofing Solutions and Building Services Limited for £255,823 for Brampton Sidings roofing works. Any other comments?
Just a quick one about we're overlaying the existing roofs, right? No asbestos involved, I hope, in the existing roofs.
Our director in this area is nodding, shaking his head or nodding no. Can you nod no? Shaking his head no. So you can rest assured that there isn't. Thank you, Trevor. But a valid point, because of course we found with the civic offices, obviously the cost massively increases when you want to do any work on a building that's got asbestos in it. Okay, thank you for that. Do you all agree with the recommendations? Thank you. And on to item 11, which is the internal audit contract extension. Steve's going to lead on this one.
Yeah, our internal audit. We have a service level agreement with Stoke to use their internal audit services, and we get a good service off them. It's been running for 3 years now. We're now in the fourth. I think the contract was 3 + 1, and we're now into the 1. So we're extending this for another year. And during that year, we'll have a look and see what the service is, what improvement we can get off them, off Stoke or whatever. And it's something like, it's a continuous service. We had audit standards was last night. The lady from Stoke was there then, and she presents to us, and everybody seems happy with the work she's doing. So it's another year's contract. There's no break in it. Endorse it, and we'll spend the next 12 months deciding what the following 3 years are going to do. Thank you.
Okay, so Cabinet's been asked to approve the extension of the internal audit service level agreement for a further 12 months. Any other speakers on this? No? Okay. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us to item 12, which is our forward plan, which is printed on pages 138 to 46. We'll go through it page by page. First page and on to the second page covers this meeting, which we covered quite a lot of business, as you will see there. And then over the page, you will see that we have a couple of meetings coming up, and particularly the June the 6th cabinet, which will have a number of items, including letting the food waste processing contract, and also issues to do with the regeneration of the Rycroft, and also a paper about the potential hotel design and build contract procurement. And then over the page, Rycroft Assembly, and also as we come through to the Keel Solar Farm business case, and then also York Place update on the demolition there. So we've got a lot of items coming up in June to get our teeth into, but that's the forward plan, all agreed. And then item 13 is urgent business. I don't have any urgent business. Item 14 is disclosure of exempt information. We don't have any at this meeting. Next item is attendance of councillors or members of the public. Don't have any members of the public wishing to speak or councillors requesting to speak either. So I conclude the meeting. Thank you for attendance. We got through a lot of business there, but all good to move the borough forward. Thank you.